Hyper-partisan Democrats are about to drag our great country down into the gutter of rancor and vitriol, the likes of which has never been seen in our nation's history.
Republican senators tried and failed to stop the impeachment trial of Donald Trump. Now, I have several clips to show you here that are quite entertaining, so wait for that. But before I get to all of this, let me set this up here. So this was their claim here is that this impeachment trial is unconstitutional because Donald Trump is no longer president and now he's a private citizen. Yet there is historical precedent for impeaching somebody who is no longer in office. I will get to that in a bit. First here from NBC, Senate Republicans on Tuesday embraced the argument that trying a former president is unconstitutional, setting up a procedural escape hatch for lawmakers to acquit former President Donald Trump on a charge of inciting the January 6th riot. Now, this is really what this is about. This vote was obviously going to fail, but what this does allow is it allows Republicans to essentially play both sides. Both try and appear like they are with Donald Trump and with the base of their party, the majority of which support Trump, the majority of which still think that Trump won the election. They're able to both do that while also later on saying, say Trump is no longer popular in 4 years, they can say, well, no, I never supported Trump. I just thought that it was unconstitutional to try and try a private citizen. So this allows them to play both sides. This works for them either way. And that's honestly what all of this is about. Now, before I get to the obvious hypocrisy here based on what Republicans have said in the past when it came to other issues, I will get to that. Let me show you how this vote broke down. So the motion from Senator Rand Paul was defeated by a vote of 55 to 45, showing Democrats have an uphill climb of securing the 67 votes needed for a conviction. Among those who voted for Paul's motion was Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who said he's undecided on whether to convict Trump and who worked on the trial calendar with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. So this is going to, yes, be an uphill battle for Democrats here. They need 17 Republicans on board to actually convict Trump. Only 5 Republicans voted with Democrats here to move forward on the trial. Now, some of these members have come out and said that this vote is separate from the trial, and they may vote differently when it comes to trial versus how they voted on this motion. So it doesn't necessarily mean this is how the vote's going to break down when it comes to the trial, but it's not a good sign because Democrats still need 17 Republicans on board to actually convict Trump and prevent him from running for office again. Now, let me get to some clips here. Rand Paul. This is Rand Paul's motion here. I'm going to play, this is a kind of a short clip from his speech, but I'm going to play this and just the projection here is just unbelievable.
Hyper-partisan Democrats are about to drag our great country down into the gutter of rancor and vitriol, the likes of which has never been seen in our nation's history. In a few minutes, I will insist on a vote to affirm that this proceeding we are about to enter is unconstitutional, that impeachment of a private citizen is illegal and essentially a bill of attainder.
Yes. Hyper-partisan Democrats are about to drag our great country down into a gutter of rancor and vitriol, the likes of which have never been seen in our nation's history. Trump just left office. Did you already forget what happened over the last 4 years? The hypocrisy from these people are just the projection is truly unfriggin' believable. I don't know how he can get up there and say this with a straight face. If you want to try and fight the battle and claim that it's unconstitutional to try and put Trump on trial for the riot, then fine, make that argument, even though you're wrong, and I'll show you why you're wrong. But fine, make that argument. But to go into this this bullshit that is so obviously ridiculous, doesn't this just hurt your argument? But at this point, when it comes to the Republican base, I don't think they watch this stuff. They don't care. They definitely don't care about hypocrisy, but they don't care. As long as you're standing up for the dear leader that is now the dear private citizen, then that's all that matters. Now, just a couple reactions here. Farron Cousins tweeting out, psychology courses can just show this video when they need to teach students about projection. Holy wow, this is nuts. Farron is exactly right. And also on the idea of vitriol, you don't even have to look at Donald Trump and Republicans over the last 4 years. Just this story is from today. QAnon GOP, yes, a QAnon supporting GOP representative, Marjorie Taylor Greene, supported calls to assassinate Dems, proposed executing Pelosi for treason. So a big story just released, a bunch of her social media activity online showing her supporting assassinating Dems and calling to execute Pelosi for treason. This happened today, the same day that Rand Paul is claiming that hyper-partisan Democrats are going to bring us into rancor and vitriol, the likes have never been seen before in our nation's history. Yeah, okay. Now, before I get to some other clips here, which are fantastic, Qasim Rashid here tweets out, Benghazi, GOP, 33 hearings and investigations over 5 years. Hillary's emails, GOP, 20-plus hearings and investigations over 5 years. Trump's insurrection, GOP, how dare you muzzle us? It's been 3 weeks, move on already. So this is, there's a reason I'm bringing this up. Because I'm going to show you now a bunch of clips of, 3 different Republicans showing you what they said, what they're saying now about this trial of Trump, and what they said back then about Benghazi. And keep in mind while you're watching this, that Hillary Clinton was no longer the Secretary of State when they were doing the Benghazi hearings. So with that in mind, watch all this.
Democrats are wasting the nation's time on a partisan vendetta against a man no longer in office. She's in charge. She was a Secretary of State. She's in charge of all of that. When you're president of the United States, there are a lot of people that work for you. But ultimately, if we go to war or we have a disaster in war, the president is to blame. The president does deserve both credit and blame because they're in charge. I think in this case, specifically requests were made for more security, and they were denied, and that is on Hillary Clinton's watch.
I think the trial is stupid. I think it's counterproductive. We already have a flaming fire in this country, and it's like taking a bunch of gasoline and pouring it on top of the fire.
This is not about politics. This is about accountability. Someone needs to be held accountable for what's happened here, but it's also about preventing this from happening in the future. This is not about hurting anybody politically. This is about getting to the truth.
You talk about unifying the country. If you do not stand up against the impeachment of President Trump after he leaves office, you're an incredibly weak figure in American history. I consider this a major national security failure that you could see coming that no one's been held accountable for yet. And we're asking something that's reasonable. And we're demanding action, not because we're Republicans, but because the nation needs to know how these people died, what the administration actually knew, and were they misled by the administration 8 weeks before an election?
My, how they've changed their tune. Back then, somebody has to be held accountable. The people in charge, Hillary Clinton was in charge, she has to be held accountable. Now, Donald Trump's already gone. What are you guys wasting time for? It's hyper-partisan Democrats full of vitriol and rancor trying to destroy our nation. Or it's lawmakers trying to hold the former president accountable for inciting a riot. Maybe it's that. But in the last clip there of Lindsey Graham, watching him pretend to care about human life, I mean, you could see the look on his face that he doesn't even believe what he is saying when he is saying that. No, that fight about Benghazi was purely political, all about trying to hurt Hillary Clinton's numbers before 2016, which, look, I have plenty of criticisms of Hillary Clinton. Benghazi was not one of them. Now, let me address the unconstitutional part of going after Trump now that he's a private citizen. So as NBC writes here, Democrats say they have precedent on their side. While no former president has been tried by the Senate after leaving office, Secretary of War William Belknap was tried in the Senate in 1876 after he had already resigned. And legal experts such as Harvard law professor Lawrence Tribe and University of Texas law professor Steve Ledeck stress the trial is constitutional because one of the considerations the Senate must make is whether to bar the subject of impeachment from future office. So, yes, there is historical precedent here. Even though it has not been a president, there's only been 3 presidents impeached in American history, so there's only so much really to choose from. But even with the short history here, somebody has been impeached after no longer being in their position. And also, the reason why it is important is mentioned right here, because part of impeachment is deciding whether or not to bar that person from future office. So the idea that it's unconstitutional is completely ridiculous. Now, one last clip here. This is really quick, but I think Jake Tapper here sums it up fairly well.
Bill Clinton lied under oath, and they thought that he needed to be removed from office for lying under oath. Donald Trump incites a terrorist attack, and they have a different standard.
Now, I don't always say this, but Jake Tapper here is exactly right. There clearly is a different standard from Bill Clinton to Donald Trump. And this also is important when discussing this issue, because it is not just about Donald Trump. You can't just put the last 4 years on Trump. You have to pin it to the entire Republican Party. And Jake Tapper should remember this moment going forward, that this is what the party is. It is the party of Trump. It is the party of the Trump base. They are not going to change. Never give them any inch. They are not there to work in the best interests of people. They are simply there to work in the interests of in their own self-interest and the interests of the wealthy donors that back them. And yes, you can often make that same argument when it comes to Democrats, but here it is just clear as day. You had a president incite a riot, lie for months and months and months about the election results, and still you're having Republicans defend him and try to prevent him from being convicted and prevent him from running again, simply because they know that the base is with him and all they care about is self-preservation.